I was just speaking, and I just realized that I'm not hearing anything from you. And then, but hey, unmute your microphone. Just quick
Okay.
question though: are you able to actually see the PowerPoint presentation
Yes.
without being obstructed view, or is it the controls for the go-to meeting are showing up on the screen?
Yes, they're open.
Oh,
It's
they're open.
presenting.
You can see them. Okay. So let me know when you want me to start.
Okay. Well, let me start first. Hello, my name is Cindy Velasquez. I'm the marketing coordinator at New Horizons in Chicago, and I will be your MC today, which means I'm here to answer any questions you may have. So if anyone has a question during, or if you want to wait till after Ahmed is done with his presentation, feel free to ask them in the questions box on the side panel. So today you have Ahmed Khan, a New Horizons technical instructor. He's going to give you a great presentation on the top 5 benefits of Agile Project Management. And if anyone's not familiar with us, New Horizons is the largest independent IT company in the world. We have the best instructors in the business that provide learning solutions such as Cisco, Citrix, Microsoft, just to name a few. And with that said, I'm handing it over to Ahmed. Please feel free to ask any questions during or after the webinar.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Cindy. Much appreciated. Hello, everybody. This is Ahmed Khan. I am actually one of the instructors who is actually heading many of the development of the program and the courses around about Agile and DevOps. Today, we are going to be talking about the type of benefits that we actually have using the Agile approach and the approach that we are going to talk about is actually a collection of many other methodologies. So we're going to basically talk about the top 5 benefits of Agile approach. Um, Many of the time I'll be actually going to be making a side-by-side comparison of Agile approach to something we already know, which is the traditional approach. So comparatively speaking, Agile approach actually provides us with faster ROI, return on investment, and speed to market of our product that we are actually trying to develop so that the customer are going to be able to take benefit from it as soon as possible. Improve transparency and better visibility because we are going to be using empirical processes in this approach. It actually helps better understand what's going on in our projects. And if we need to actually make some fine-tune adjustments, we are also going to be able to do that. Improve predictability through better risk management because everything is transparent and it actually allows the agile approach basically allows us to be able to use empirical process control. It actually gives us a better handle on the risk and be able to actually maneuver around it to make sure that we don't run ourselves into any kind of problem. Increase collaboration and ownership. I mean, this is a big point that needs to be actually be talked about, but in time I'll be actually further elaborating on it. But at the end of the day, I'll tell you that a number of studies actually show this is basically a no-frill type of an approach. It is um, to say that it gets to the point without actually wasting the time of the individuals. And in fact, it is very enjoyable and a fun approach. Once you actually get a hang of it, it becomes really, really fun. All right, so let's get into it. Folks, what is Agile? I'm pretty sure that many of you are going to be wondering what Agile is all about. I have heard this term being thrown around in my office. I have seen some of these talks around the cooler and so on and so forth. So what I will tell you really quickly over here, my friends, is Jim Highsmith is one of the individuals whose name you're seeing underneath all the way in the bottom of this screen. One of the individual who actually pioneered many of the modern practices roundabout Agile, although Agile is something that's been around for a long time. All right. If you were to actually go to agilemanifesto.org, you will also see Jim Highsmith along with other individuals who are also the master of their domain, who have contributed and still are contributing towards the modern practices of Agile. So having said that, Jim Highsmith is basically the undisputed god in Agile when it comes to, and many of the practices that are we are going to be actually seeing, he has actually written books on them as well. But nonetheless, according to Jim Highsmith, a popular Agile guru, um, what he thinks of what Agile is, in his own words, and I quote, agility is the ability to both create and respond to change in order to profit in a turbulent environment, business environment. Agility is the ability to balance flexibility and stability. And quite frankly, although he has already said it, and I couldn't do a better job than what he's actually already doing over here, but I will actually concur that that's absolutely true. All the the consulting gigs that I actually have been out to, I mean, this is exactly what we actually see happening over and over again. Now, what is Agile? Agile, you can actually think of as an umbrella term, all right? Agile doesn't have its own legs to actually stand up on. In fact, it is a collection of other methodologies that actually makes up the family of Agile methodologies. Now, some of them are less known and less popular, and some of them are actually more known in the industry. For example, as you can see under the blue umbrella where it says lightweight approaches, you would see Scrum, which has now basically become almost synonymous with Agile practices. Same can actually be said, and it's nearly true, for extreme programming. All right. But nonetheless, if you want to actually see the numbers, I mean, there are a number of studies that you can actually see. Basically, Agile is a collection of other methodologies. We have lean software development, we have Kanban system, we have continuous integration, so on and so forth. Now, just getting a little into the nuts and bolts, the lightweight approach is basically an appropriate type of an approach if we have smaller teams that we're working with. If we want to actually take our Agile practices at enterprise level, then the fuller approach is much better. And as you can see, it says right over here that it is better for beyond or more than one team. All right. So we have Scrum over Scrum, we have Scaled Scrum, Large Scale Scrum, Scaled Agile Framework, which is probably one of the most popular type of fuller approach towards Agile project management. But nonetheless, as you can see, that many of these methodologies that we are actually seeing are part of this group. There are many more, and nowadays 56% of your Agile practices basically are coming from Scrum. All right. If you were to actually go much deeper into it, you would notice though, Scrum, Lean, Kanban, XP, FDD, and TDD combined with value-driven development, right? They make up to over like 80% of the practices. Now, what do I mean by saying that? That is an interesting question. In fact, let me actually show you this slide over here, folks. As I was saying, that Agile methodologies are basically a collection of methodologies known as Agile approach, right? But when I was actually mentioning it to you that 56% of the practices in what we call Agile practices are borrowed from Scrum, all right? Over 80% actually come from Scrum, XP, Lean, feature-driven development, test-driven development, value-driven development, what has happened is that a number of companies over the period of few decades have been experimenting with combining the traits of these different methodologies, and they actually have now come up with practices that are now known as the best practices in Agile. Now, the concepts, the methodologies, entire methodologies, patterns, practices, principles, properties, rules, and values have been basically handpicked and nitpicked out of different methodologies, as to name a few, to actually come up with the best practices. As I keep saying, though, the modern practices in Agile, up to 80% of them are actually based on the five or the six methodologies that I actually have mentioned. All right. So one of the things that I would like to make it very clear up front over here, ladies and gentlemen, is that each of these methodologies have their own shortcomings. And what ended up happening is that many of these individuals who are the master of their domain, who know what they're talking about and what they're doing, people like Jim Highsmith, who actually said, you know what, we need to actually update these methodologies by actually taking a workaround approach or a different approach. Thus, now we actually have the best practices around Agile. And as I said, all of these items that you're seeing on the left-hand side, the concept, the methodologies, all the way down to values, they have been picked from all of these methodologies to actually address the shortcomings of the Agile methodology that we now see and enjoy or use in the workspace. Now, what makes Agile better at times than your traditional approach? Folks, one of the things that is worth noting over here is that they both have their places at times, all right? Agile approach is not a silver bullet solution or a one-size-fits-all type of a solution to your project management, all right? Agile approach is actually a different type of approach compared to Waterfall. And Waterfall, although less responsive, more rigid, in fact, compared to Agile, has its own place as well. One of the biggest difference that we actually see is that the Agile approach is better suited for chaotic environments where you have a lot of uncertainty and you cannot predict the environment. That is, if we are trying to build a product, but we don't know how that product is going to look like by the end of the project, then it is better that we actually use Agile methods. In fact, it can be also further taken to the point where you might be actually working on a project that might be a cutting edge, bleeding edge type of a project, R&D type of a project, N+1 generation type of a project. In these kind of environment, which we consider high risk and chaotic, it's better that we use Agile approaches. As you can see, it's depicted on the right side, where we are not actually completing the work as one big, huge project. We are going to actually do this project in 3 steps, all right? So you can think of as doing the project instead of one big bang, we are actually going to do series of smaller bangs to actually get the work done. That provides us with visibility and the ability to be able to respond to the changing environment of our customer. Versus Waterfall, which is based off of a predictable environment. You can actually think of it like this. If we need to actually build a bridge, we will end up building a bridge, right? Regardless if it takes a year, 2 years, or 10 years, doesn't matter. That is not to say that it would be wrong to say that we will start off with the concept of building a bridge, but by the time we are done, we will actually end up with a bridge that actually has a train going underneath it, and then we can actually land a jumbo 747 or a 380, and it actually has a water theme park in it. No, it doesn't work like that. If we say we're going to be building a bridge, then we'll end up building a bridge. And in Agile, that is not to say we don't know how the product may pan out a little down the road. We may actually have a vision for it, but our vision take a back seat. What's really important is the business value. So in Agile, we actually focus on the business value, which is basically a moving target. But nonetheless, if you pin it down, you actually get more bang for your buck. All right. So business value. What is it value? Well, whatever the customer actually sees beneficial to them at that given point, and we will go and do the work based on business value. In Waterfall, the focus is on scope. And the problem with scope is, comparatively speaking to Agile, is that you have to lock every single phase down before you can actually move on to the next phase. That is to say, the predecessor phase has to be locked down before we can move into a successor phase. In this case, take a look into discovery. Discovery, all those your business requirements needs to be locked down before we can actually move into design. Before we can actually start working on development, the design has to be locked down. Once we actually have done that, the testing will require that the development should stop, and then we can actually do the testing, right? So the point is, though, in scope, one of the things is that you have to lock everything down in order for you to be able to move forward. With Agile, that is not a requirement. You may not even know exactly what you need to be ending up with, as long as you have enough understanding that what needs to be done within the next sprint. Is there enough work to actually do all that work, and the resources that are available, we can get the work done, we'll move forward into it, you know. One of the way that you can actually grasp that idea is by looking at this depiction over here. In traditional project management, which is the top portion of it, which is actually depicting not like this, you would notice, though, if the customer says that, you know, I want you to be able to actually develop a car for me, what will happen is that we'll just start working on things, and all we are concerned is by the end of the fourth quarter, we actually have a finished product. The customer may or may not be very heavily involved, but really doesn't matter, because we already have collected all the requirements and we have locked down. Basically, that is to say that we are not going to be accepting any new major changes. Minor changes maybe, but we're not talking about, you know, trying to actually build a car and now we are trying to actually build an SUV. No. If we said we are going to build a car, we are going to build a car. If we said we are going to build a bridge, we will end up building a bridge. Now, take a look at the bottom depiction, folks. You would, where it says like this. You know, you have sprint number 1, where let's say a customer said, you know, I have a need to be mobile, and we ended up giving them this skateboard. And the next iteration, the next sprint, the customer said, hey, you know, I kind of like the idea of being able to actually move around. Can you actually give me a handlebar on it so that I can actually maneuver easily? Well, we actually go into sprint number 2 and we do the development for that product, the product increment. The next thing you know, the customer says, hey, can you actually give me a bicycle? So we are not going to actually throw out what we already have. We are going to incrementally, iteratively, we are going to start developing the product. So on, so forth. And you would notice, though, we will end up with well, in this case, they're actually showing that is a convertible, which is a much better proposition than your hardtop type of a vehicle. But nonetheless, though, it does provide very important benefits. One of the benefits is that in your traditional environment, you're locked down. What you actually sign up for is what you're gonna get. In Agile environment, what we actually say we're going to do, we only do the portion of it. We're not going to do the entire product development. All right. In order for us to be able to actually get the work done, we have to have the right resources, the right people. All right. There is no project manager, as many of us are used to seeing in projects in traditional sense. In agile environment, your core team is actually comprised of the product owner, the scrum master, and the scrum team. All right, folks, these are some of the traits I'm going to go over really quickly over here. The power of the project manager in traditional project management has been decentralized over these three roles. The product owner is the individual that you can actually think of as a project champion who knows what needs to be built in terms of the product and has a good understanding and a working relationship with their stakeholder community. Product owners are the ones who actually come up with the concept and the ideas about the product that needs to be worked on. The Scrum team is the actual collection of the SMEs who develop the other product. All right. The Scrum Master, on the other hand, is a different type of a role. It's not a one-to-one conversion into a project manager or from a project manager. If anything, the Scrum Master is a servant leader, a role who does not manages the team, but merely facilitates all of the processes and interaction and the collaboration between the team. If put in one word, I will say the Scrum Master is more like a referee between the product owner and the Scrum team, not their manager. All right? Folks, these are some very high-level concepts that I can actually share with you really quick. In Agile approach, people are the main assets, whereas in Waterfall, processes are the main assets. Now, we can actually talk about many of these. These are just very few of these, but one of the things that I will tell you folks is that the concept of Agile are very noble. They are very easy to understand, but they are difficult to actually implement on day-to-day basis. It requires constant practice. It requires being patient with the way Agile actually says it should be actually practiced every single day by all of the team members, all the stakeholders. Whereas Waterfall is all about process and actually making your processes more perfect. All right, domain, as I mentioned, you would use Agile approach in an exploratory type of a environment where there's a lot of risk, where there is a lot of unpredictability. We don't know how the product's supposed to look like 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road. Waterfall, it's predictable. If we say we're going to build a bridge, we will end up building a bridge, exactly what we said we were going to do. All right, documentation, folks, there's a big myth out over there or misconception that Agile is a zero documentation approach towards project management. It is wrong. We do produce a lot of documentation, but not as comprehensively as we would in Waterfall approach. All right. Number of things that you can actually see over here. Quality is customer-centric versus Waterfall is process-centric. As you can see, the process style is iterative in project management. Instead of actually doing all of the work 100%, the discovery, the requirements, the development, the testing, and so on and so forth, big chunks of 100% completion, we don't do that. We'll just do 10% or 25% completion of the work, and then we'll actually go in front of the customer. And when the customer says this is exactly what we wanted, then we'll actually do the remainder of the 25%. And then the 75% and the 100% will be completed. Versus Waterfall, once you actually know what needs to be done, then you just simply ask the customer to step aside and we let us do the work. So we complete all of the work in one big bang fashion. And going all the way through, I would like to actually mention this to you, that instead of actually doing one big bang, if we drop down all the way down where it says return on investment, you would notice in Waterfall, the customer actually realizes the ROI at the end of the project life. Whereas in Agile, it is early throughout the life cycle. That is the 25%, the 50%, 75, and the 100%. All right. So folks, Agile is very, very beneficial in times when you understand when is a good time to actually use an Agile project management approach as opposed to your traditional approach. All right. So it provides you with faster ROI and speed to market, improve transparency and better visibility, improve predictability through better risk management, and increase collaboration and ownership. And as I said, it is a lot of fun once you actually get to understand what's going on. You actually get to play a lot of planning games, and you use different planning tools and techniques that actually doesn't even feel like that you're actually working. It's actually a collection of games. You can actually type in agile games and you can Google it, and I'm pretty sure you're going to see hundreds of those games, and you pick up and choose whatever actually makes sense in your environment. Now, let's talk about some certifications that New Horizons actually does provide. So we actually have the SMC certification, which is for the Scrum Masters, one of the roles that we actually saw. SPOC, which stands for Scrum Product Owner Certified. The persons who are actually well versed in the product that needs to be actually developed, or they actually have good working relationships with the stakeholders. These are the people who are better suited to be the product owners. And then you obviously have one right above SPOC, which is SDC, the team, people who are going to be building the application, the product, are the one with the skill sets to actually make that a reality. All right. So these three certifications, we actually have them available. These are the ones that actually make sense in this context of this presentation. There are other ones. We can always talk about them. Please reach out to your account executive or the salespeople. Here's one of the other one as well. This is also an important one. The hierarchy is that you actually take the traditional approach for the first two certification, but it's not a mandatory thing. You can actually just sit for your ACP certification, which stands for Agile Certified Practitioner, is bestowed upon the people from PMI.org, a very well-known certification authority, a body in project management. But nonetheless, these are some of the certifications that are available out in the market, and that we are also providing them through New Horizons. And folks, with that, it brings us to the end of this presentation. Any questions?
Thanks, Ahmed. We do have one question.
Please.
So, in terms of a financial environment, I guess, will there be more restrictions on what you can do, say from an agile approach?
Well, there are no restrictions that what you can or what you cannot do, as long as the customer is actually is able to actually provide the justification. Why is it valuable to them? Then it can be justified into the budget. However, in the traditional approach, it's basically, this is what we want, and then we actually go out and we actually work towards the budget. In agile environment, the starting is basically similar, where you actually have given a cap, basically that you can only spend $1 million in during this time frame of the project. But what we get out of it is actually what makes the biggest difference. Spending $1 million on an agile project and a traditional project basically would be the same. It's the benefits, the use, the value of the work that actually makes the difference.
Mhm. Okay, perfect. And then while we wait for any more questions, I did want to mention that this webinar was recorded, and all the attendees that are on this call will be emailed the link later on this afternoon or tomorrow But if any questions do pop up later on, just feel free to email info@nhls.com and we will respond as soon as we can. And I think there are no more questions. So thank you everyone for attending and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, Ahmed, for
Thank
presenting.
you.
It was great.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye bye.